For our next video today, we're staying at Meadowlands and moving on to the New York Giants. With a 6-10 record, the Giants finished second in the NFL's worst division, the NFC East. Now, for full disclosure, I was hot on this team going into the 2020 season and actually had them down as my sneaky pick to do better than people had expected. They were actually in the playoff picture right down to the very last regular season game. However, that's more to do with how terrible their divisional rivals were than how good this team was. The Giants only have 6 picks in this year's draft, including the 11th overall, the 42nd in the second round, a third rounder, a fourth and 2 sixths. Part of the reason why they have depleted draft capital is due to how busy they've been in the offseason. And aside from overpaying the odd player here and there, I think that they've generally hit it out of the park. They finally have a stud ex-receiver in Kenny Golladay. Zach Fulton should beef up the O-line. And Adoree Jackson caps off what's looking like a very strong secondary unit. I like the moves that they've made. So what weakness remains? So outside linebacker appears to me to be the most glaringly obvious need on this team as things stand. At the minute, free agency signing Ifeadi Onigbo currently occupies a starting outside linebacker position on the depth chart. Now, as a Vikings fan, let me tell you, Big Blue, he didn't really contribute much last year. The Vikings pass rush was basically non-existent, and this guy was a major reason for that. Add to this, I don't think he's ever played in a 3-4 base. He was a defensive end in purple last year. Maybe switching schemes will elevate his play, but don't bank on it. Outside linebacker needs an upgrade. It would be incredible for this team if Micah Parsons was still on the board at 11. There's a small chance of this happening if the teams in front of New York go a little bit quarterback loco. But again, don't bank on that. So Jaelan Phillips would be a scheme fit, and he'd probably still be around until the late teens in this year's draft. So perhaps this could even offer New York a chance to trade back a little bit. There's options there. Alternatively, if the team was to look at this in the second round, a player like Joe Tryon would be a great selection at the start of day 2. As with seemingly every draft of the last few years, the Giants will throw some picks on the O-line. I don't see this happening in round 1, but given the perceived depth in the position in this year's draft, don't be surprised to see them find a starter on day 2 or maybe even early on day 3 if they're lucky. I'm seeing a lot of mocks that have the Giants taking a wide receiver at 11, and while a little extra depth would be great, I suspect that the team feels it probably has good enough starters in Golladay, Shepard and Slayton. There's a small chance they get involved on Thursday or Friday, but I expect it's much more likely we see them pull the trigger on the position on Saturday. Now, I'm not sure what it is, but I seem to never be able to look at the Giants' depth chart without thinking it looks pretty tasty. It's a weakness. But in all honest truth, if they do deliver a decent outside linebacker from this year's draft, I challenge you to go through it and not think the same. And that's New York.